And here we go again. One of the easiest things, and one of the simplest things, and one of the most surefire best ways. Jeez, I'm even blanking on the words that I'm supposed to use. One of the best and safest and most surefire ways to ensure that your time and energy are always on point is just to address the root cause at question. I'm going to explain a little bit better by giving you an allegory about a leaky roof. Let's say that your roof is leaking. Let's say that there is rain falling down. And let's say that your living room is a wet mess. Or let's say that there are multiple rooms that are a wet mess. You could of course paste some membrane below the leaky holes where the water is pouring down. You could also try and tape the holes or tape the cracks or whatever where you see, or the wet spots where the water is falling down. You could, put down buckets on the floor and allow the water to drop down into the buckets and fill up the buckets with rainwater, and then, use it as shower water. There's a lot of things you could do. And there's a lot of probably creative solutions, creative DIY solutions that that could theoretically work and last for a given amount of time, but nobody would really address the root cause at hand, which is the leaky roof. And so, also, let's say that there are holes in your shoes. You could paste the holes in your shoes. I meant you could tape the holes in your shoes. You could try and repair them. Or you could actually do what works. You could buy new shoes. And in the case of the leaky roof, you could actually repair the roof. Get a brand new roof. No, it's not fun. It's not cool. It's surely not cheap. I know, because I've talked to a lot of people who have done it. And way back in the day, I actually had a roof that I needed to order myself. Now, that was a brand new roof, and I did so simply because I knew I would have to buy a new roof and buy the best roofing shingle or roof stones there were. Simply because I couldn't afford to live in a leaky home, right? It's kind of like, let's say you're trying to wear an umbrella when you're pissing your pants. It doesn't work. What works is stop pissing your pants, right? That's what works. So, allegories aside, instead of being around people that you don't like, that bore you, that wear you down, that steal and deplete you of your energy, here's what you do. You tell them no. You just say no. No, I'm not coming. No, I don't want to go. No, I'm not doing this. No, I don't want to do XYZ activity. It's as simple as that, really. Just say no. Because when you do, you're honest. And you put all doubts aside. Just think about it for a moment. It ain't the activity that's the problem. Because if you have a best friend, if your friend is really the best and you trust him or her and you want to spend as much time with them as possible, it doesn't really matter what you do. You could be locked up in prison, you could be driving fast cars, you could be swimming in the ocean, you could be reading books together, you could be doing push-ups together, you could sit there and be bored and idle, and yet it's still fun to be bored with your best friend. Everyone who has a best friend, or everyone who has someone that they trust, know, and like, and they have done so for years, know that it's not so much the activity, or it's not the activity at all. You could be tortured together. You could be whipped together, really, and it would still be better. This is an extreme case, but it would still be better mentally than spending time with someone who just drags and annoys you and wastes your energy. I had to cough. So that's why it pays off to be just honest. Just say no. You don't have to explain yourself. And talking about this, When people require and request that you explain yourself after you've told them no, that's a good indicator of letting you know who they really are, because they don't want to accept a no. They don't accept that you have other standards. They don't accept that you say no. Really, they don't. Because if they accept that you say no and they don't request an explanation, or they don't look or behave offended, well, then you know that that person maybe is worth keeping around, because you don't need to explain yourself. In fact, this reminds me of a book. I've been talking about this book previously, but I'm going to bring it up again because it's such a powerful book, and it's such a powerful way of thinking about life. The book is called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty, because you shouldn't feel guilty for saying no. You really shouldn't. And that's the time and energy vampires, the TEV's biggest tool, is to make you feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty. Nobody should feel guilty because they don't want to do something, because you have the right to say no. You are born with the inherent right to say no. Notice how that applies, of course, to adults. If you're a minor and your parent tells you something, then of course you have to do it. But I'm not talking about that. I'm addressing adults here. And they're equipped with the right to say no. You have all the rights in the world to say no without explaining yourself. So instead of assuming that, oh, it would be much better to do X, Y, and Z together. It would be much better to play football together. It would be much better to play video games together. It would be much better to sit down and draw together. Or whatever, read books or go for a run. No. Say no to the person if they're annoying you. And you have all the rights in the world to do so. Believe me, you have all the rights in the world. Now, there's a few caveats here. Number one, you shouldn't say no to something that just spooks you. I'm not talking about saying no because you're scared and, you can indulge in cowardice. Trust me. More than one time in my life, I've said no because I was scared of doing something, and that ain't fun. That ain't cool. That actually sucks a lot. And so when I say no because I'm scared, I feel bad, and you should as well. So if that's you, if you've said no previously because you were scared, then go correct it. Say yes the next time. Right? That's what it's all about. That's not what I'm talking about here with respect to saying no. Saying no means saying no to something that will ruin your life or something that will make you worse off. It does not mean saying no to something that will make you grow. Because every time you do something that makes you grow, every time you do something that's scary, but that makes you grow, you become stronger mentally and physically. Right? And that could be anything. Go pick up the hot girl in the bar, go have a fight, spar someone, ask your boss for a pay rise. Whatever it means. Whatever it is that makes you scared. If you are scared and you know that you're not going to die, and quite likely you're not going to die from something, then go do it. Because that's a very, very important caveat. Because, let's face it, when you're talking about being around annoying people, that's not something that you're scared about. You're not scared of these people. You're scared of wasting your time. And when you're scared of wasting your time, when you know that you could be doing something more productive, you have every right in the world to say to say no. Just gonna grab my water bottle here, my oversized water bottle. In fact, you owe it to yourself to say no. If you don't say no to something that would have been a waste of your time, you're essentially telling the world that my time is worth nothing. You're putting a label on your time that's one of cheap. You're essentially telling the world that my time is cheap. My time is for use. And I could be done with, or I could be used to whatever, when you don't really know and when you don't really feel like it. This is so important that you understand. And there are so many ways I could go with this. There are so many things I could derive from this, and sometimes later I will, because saying no is a very, very powerful tool. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you that I learned about saying no via Ben Settle, originally from Jim Camp, the famous negotiation coach, who insisted that every single negotiation, whether in business, whether in social life, whether in, well, whatever, should begin with no, because if the other party hasn't said no yet, they're either lying or they're afraid of saying no. There has to be a no somewhere, because no erases all doubt. No means you are honest. No means you're laying you're exposing yourself bare. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Anyway, long ramble, long rant. Say no. Protect yourself, protect your time and energy. Say no to people and watch how they behave, instead of trying to come up with all sorts of other cheap solutions. The leaky roof ain't gonna solve itself, and it surely ain't gonna be protected if you put buckets on the floor. The only way to fix the leakages in the roof is to replace the roof altogether. Normally, that is. I'm not a roofing expert, but you know what I mean. Fix the root cause. Say no. If you want to learn more about time and energy management and time and energy culture, and also how to avoid the time and energy vampires in your life, then get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is below the episode description, wherever you're watching and or listening to this. I will see you at a later time.